So the domain is based in Pommard. We have 6 hectares, but we just got 2 hectares more this year. Some Pommard Premier Cru and Volnay Premier Cru and Chassagne Premier Cru. We are organic since 1999. And we do the 24 next year appellation. We speak about vinification, or
yes, please, Pascal. I mean, I think anything that, and I know that Joannes, sorry, anything that's particular. If there's any changes being made. I think you were working more with whole bunch this.
Yeah. So okay, we tried in 2019. I wanted to do this because my grandfather told to my father the best year that he did it was with the whole bunch, and my dad never tried this, little bit, but not with 100%. And so we tried in 19 for some cuvée 100% of whole bunch. The Clos des Mouches is 100% of whole bunch, and yeah, 2019 was, I think, the perfect year for try this. The grapes, the balance with the acidity and the pH was amazing. The degree of alcohol was correct, like between 30 and 30.5. So it was good. And yeah, so now I'm very happy for with that. So I will try to continue this and do all the with all the vine use the whole bunch.
Yeah, and Pascal and Pascal Lorraine, Joannes, because I was waiting for him to come on the call, so he was in my mind. Joannes, and in the Clos des Mouches, is that in your parcel of Clos des Mouches, is that more clay soil? So was that better advantageous having more?
Yeah, it's limestone. The Clos des Mouches is exposed southeast. We have the half in red, half in white, and for the red, it's the whole vine. The vine is like 75 or 80, and for the white is more young because we planted the white 10 years ago. And yeah, the name the Clos des Mouches is because a long time ago we called the fly bee, and in this area, Clos des Mouches, we had a lot of beehive.
Beehives,
yeah. So that's why the name is Clos des Mouches.
Yeah, I have to confess, when I was first working in wine and I saw Clos des Mouches and I had a little bit of French understanding, I couldn't understand why you would call a vineyard about flies, but it's a generic, or it's a local term that was for bees. So yeah, a good story. And just touching on the Clos des Mouches, because you've got white and red you've got Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Are the Chardonnay on more limestone and the Pinot Noir, is it a slightly more clay or alluvial soil? Or
no, it's the same. But a lot of people say that Clos des Mouches is better in white because we know the Clos des Mouches of Joseph Drouin. The most famous is in white, but for me the best one I do is with the Clos des Mouches for the red. Is the better wine I never see, for me.
Okay.
Johannes, Jason is asking how your father reacted to the move to whole bunch. Does he like the wines? Does he respect the decision?
He was happy because he just told me that the grandfather said that the best years that he did, it was with the whole bunch. So the only problem is with if you don't have some space. 2019 was good because the quantity was bad, and so it was easy to try it. But if we do the vintage like 2018, I think it's difficult because you need a lot of place for do the whole bunch. And the result is amazing. My dad loved the wine with the whole bunch now.
Sorry, Mark Ryan's asking, was it whole bunch? Well, it's probably just for the reds, for the whole bunch.
Yeah. You can do it with the wine, but no.
That would be a bit strange. Yeah, primarily just for red wines, Mark, on whole bunch in Burgundy in particular. So, and do you want? Have you got a glass of Clos Mouches there? Do you want to taste the wine? We'll taste together.
And you can see 19 is amazing because I mean is very delicate, very elegant, very lot of freshness. It's for me typically Burgundy vintage. The color is not so dark, but I don't want to find color in my wine. It's not it's not important for me. And yeah, the taste is very delicate with some flower aroma and what's fruit like confiture.
Yeah. Maybe like raspberry.
Yeah, see, oui.
I think it's very red, like very on the red fruits, nice purity. And what's amazing for me, I've historically been nervous with whole bunch, and I don't really get a whole bunch character, particularly on this wine. I think there's a real purity and freshness, and it's lively, and but I think historically maybe people were using whole bunches when maybe the vintage didn't allow, or the vineyard didn't allow, or the vine age didn't allow. So I think it's beautiful wine, Joannes. Bravo.
Thank you. But with the whole bunch, because we stopped. My father do the punching down, but I stopped. I don't use the punching down. No, it's finished. Just the pump over and no punching down.
Yeah. So for anyone who's just starting in the wine world, so there was no breaking of the cap, no sort of aggressive working of the must. Just very gentle pump over. So just bringing the juice from the bottom of the vat onto the top of the wine. So not looking to extract too strong colors or tannins, and have this beautiful pure Pinot Noir that we have in front of us. Any questions for Joannes? Any questions on that wine, or?
I wouldn't say questions. I just say it's staggering, surprising, beautiful, really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw that Jason Haynes was putting a message up about Jeroboam's. I might have to put my name in the hat for one of those. Great. Joannes, what would you compare 2019 to in terms of another vintage? Is there another vintage you would compare 2019 to?
I'm young, but for me the best year that we did, it was 2015. I compare 19 with 15, but maybe definitely 15 more concentrate than 19. 19 is more delicate, but yeah, I think 15 and 19 looks like the same. Little bit, yeah.
Some similarities in 15 with the sort of another warm Solaire vintage and concentration and ripeness, and yeah, great. Okay, well, I think Joannes, when would you start drinking? So, question from Miss Suddens: when do you think the drinking window for this wine would be? Another 3-4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Yeah, I think, but it's depends on what you like. Because now, if I taste now, we just did the bottling last week, so but if I drink this wine is in the restaurant, I'm not shocked. I mean, it's very, very delicate, very fine. So it's not too hard. But yeah, I think it's better to wait 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Great, beautiful wine. First time I tried it, and I'm really excited to the 19, and it's fantastic.
Thank you.
So I think we're gonna stay in Beaune in terms of the appellation, but we're going to change winemakers. I think Tom's located Pascal, who we were.
Hello, I'm
joining.
Here. Hello, I'm here.
He's there. Oh, there he is. Salut, Pascal.
Yeah, it's because I'm on my wife's computer. That's why it's not my name. It's me.
Well, Pascal, just I don't know what time you joined us, but if you wouldn't mind just talking a bit about, firstly, your domain, your project, what you're doing, yourselves, and then about the wine in 2019 and
okay.
and those kind of things.
Okay, so I am Canadian born, from Montreal, but I've been living in Burgundy since 1984 and making wine since 1985 in Pommard. I was a neighbor of Joannes. I know Joannes since he's a little kid. So I was there for 15 years, looking after Domaine Côte. Then I helped to create Domaine Le Bougeret, and in 2006 I created a small négoce operation under my own name, which in 2009 evolved. I did a partnership with my friend Tawse from Toronto. So we created Marchand Tawse, and then we started to buy vineyards to create Domaine Tawse. So with Domaine Tawse, we farm 7.5 hectares. About half of this is in the Côte Nuit, mainly in Gevrey, where we bought Domaine Mom in 2012. And the other half is in the Côte de Beaune, where we bought in 2009. We started to buy little by little some vineyards. So in Chassagne-Montrachet, in Pligny-Montrachet with Pligny-Montrachet Beaune, in Volnay with Volnay Beaune Cru Frémien. We have 3 different Beaune Beaune Cru Tuvilay, Beaune Cru Pernand, and Beaune Cru Clos du Roi. We're going to taste together now. And then Séville-les-Beaunes Premier Cru Lavière, Séville-les-Beaunes in white, Séville-les-Beaunes Premier Cru Vergelesses. And on top of that, we have a small piece of Musigny. Okay, so this is the domain. The domain is organically and biodynamically grown farm. And in terms of winemaking, after years of, at the beginning it was when I started to make wines in the mid-80s in Burgundy, we were all extracting, doing a lot of punch downs and a lot of looking to extract a lot. But I think more and more we became confident in the farming we do in the vineyard. And it is a trend to do less and less extraction, and we see now the vinification much more as an infusion versus an extraction, where we tend to minimize the punch downs, and and for some wines even the pump overs. So the wine where we push that concept further is the Beaune Premier Cru Clos du Roi. Where we really minimize. We do almost no punch downs, and really few light pump overs. And yeah, and for the in the Côte de Beaune in general, we tend to do a bigger proportion of whole bunch. We don't go up to 100%, but we are often around 50% whole bunch. If you compare with the Côte de Nuit, where we do in general a bit less of whole bunch. I mean, if you compare, because at Flint, you're gonna have also the Beaune Premier Cru Teuron. The Beaune Premier Cru Teuron is much more of a earthier wine, more earthy, more with bigger shoulders. The Clos du Roi is more aerial, with a great finesse, and the wine is very delicate in the mouth. It's just really, I think it fits. I mean, this is why I think, because the Clos du Roi, when you look at the climate of the Clos du Roi, it's quite big. We are on the top of the Clos du Roi, right where the hillside starts to kick in. Most of the Clos du Roi are on the flat, on the more sandier soil. We are, I think, I mean, if we go there together, you will notice right away, we are really in the best part of the Clos du Roi. We are even surrounded by 3 walls. So I suspect this is the original Clos du Roi. Yeah, I think the fact that this is why we do the less extraction possible there, because I think it fits really well with that terroir. And in 19, I'm very happy with the result. I think you have all the delicate side, and a lot of red fruit coming to that. The wine is full of flavors. And again, I think you can imagine that the wine is up in the air.
Pascal, on that.
Sorry, yeah.
I'm sorry, on that subject, Jason asks how the soil differs in the Clos du Roi with other vineyards of Beaune, such as Assisi or Grève.
Okay, so like with the Clos des Mouches, we were at the southern end of Beaune, up on the hillside. Here we are at the northern end of Beaune. As I said before, right at the foothill, right where the hillside kicks in. So it's 2 really different aspects of Beaune. And here the soil is much lighter. I mean, as I said, on the flatter part, it's quite sandy, and but here we have it's still a bit sandy, but we have more clay mixed with some limestone pebbles, rocks, I mean, and I think, yeah, it brings a wine with that finesse you can see here in the glass.
We're getting comments here from people tasting who aren't using their spittoons very much. They are enjoying the wines enormously. Previous comments we've heard people saying it could be a deceptive vintage in that it's so appealing now. But is that giving us a deceptive picture of the longevity or the true class of the vintage?
I think the wines are really appealing now. I mean, we haven't bottled this wine yet. This wine is in tank, but it's not bottled. So we don't know how the wines in general. We don't know really yet how the wines really react on the bottling, because it can happen that after you bottle a wine, they kind of shut down. But I think that right now they taste fantastic. They are fully open, full of fruit. And I think because of the balance they have, because the 19s have a lot of that balance. Even though it was a warm year, it was an incredibly warm year, as everybody knows. We harvested quite late because, I mean, there was a big gap in between at the beginning of the season when bud break happened. From the moment bud break happened to the flowering, it was a very, very long. I mean, the longest I've ever seen. So flowering happened late later than normal in June. So that's why even though it was that warm of a year, we didn't harvest that early. We harvested this was harvested on September 13th, which is much later than, for example, in 1920 or even in 1918. In 2018 and 2020, where we started to where we harvested more in August. And so I think even though it was really warm during harvest time, the nights were cold. So I think we kept a lot of acidity, a lot of freshness in the 19th, and therefore I think they have the polyphenols, and they have all what it needs to age. Even though the wines, because we vinify them on the gentle side, they still have a big structure that is not as showy as it was in the past.
Okay, in terms of 2019 overall, I mean, Pascal, you work in the Côte de Beaune. I was saying earlier that when I was tasting there that I had this impression that it was very homogeneous. The quality across the Côte de Beaune and Côte de Côte d'Or in total was very high. Is that something that you've seen as well, working in all those different terroirs? You know, was it a very high level?
Oh, yeah. But I think but especially I think I mean in a vintage like 19, we see. I don't think there's a big. I mean, the wines are different because they come from different terroirs, but the quality of the vintage, I think, is as good as in the Côte de Nuit, in the Côte de Beaune. I would say in 19 and in 22. Yeah.
In terms of volumes and yields in 19, were you?
Well, I mean, in the Clos we're not too bad. We were at 35 hectares per hectare, which is to me, I mean, where I like to be. Where I like to be to make on the Premier Cru vineyard to make great wines. In 18 we were higher, of course. In 20 we are also we are more around 14. But to me, to be at 35 is perfect.
Good stuff. Well, Pascal, I mean, it's stunning. I was lucky enough to taste with you back in July when Jason and I made a foray down there, and yeah, I thought all the wines just had this beautiful purity, a delicate touch with oak, with extraction, and you just have these fantastic examples of Pinot Noir at its best, showing lovely fruit, lovely, yeah, just fine, elegant wines. So, and thank you for joining us. I now see that. You know why young Tom was struggling to find Pascal Marchand when he was looking at a.terrier.
yeah, that's right. Because exactly. Sorry about that. But yeah, well, cheers everybody, and enjoy.
Thank you very much. There might be some questions come through as and when. Okay, so we've had a nice look at Beaune, and just for looking at Clos des Mouches and Clos des Rois was almost the two extremes of the appellations. So it was good to see that. And two very different soils as well. So we're moving into the Pommard section. The first Pommard we're going to try is from Domaine Heitz-Lochardet, from Armand Heights, and I'm going to talk you through that. I haven't served myself yet, just 1 second. So I think Sam did mention, just in case anyone joined us late, we're just changing the order a little bit. We'll taste the Pernand Vergelesses after the two Pommard. So we're in a vineyard, very, very small vineyard, the Clos des Poutures, or the Côte des Poutures. It's a tiny vineyard, a Clos, a monopole for the Heitz-Lochardet family. Armand Heights was with us on Tuesday talking about his Merceaus and explaining that historically his part of the family had been selling their fruit and doing other things. So since 2013, he's been busy trying to get those contracts back and make his own wines in his own domain. And he's been doing a really, really good job. And I think he's one of those winemakers who touches his whites and his reds with equal sort of precision and skill. So the Clos des Poutures sits on that side. It's just south of the village of Pommard. And hopefully Xavier coming up will talk even more about the terroirs of Pommard. This vineyard actually sits just below his Les Chaponnieres, which you're going to try next, which also that sits directly below Les Rougiens. And for me, Les Rougiens, one of the really top terroirs of Pommard. And I think in my own vision was areas like Pommard, where the wines sometimes can be a bit strict and sort of feel a bit maybe rustic in the tannin, or quite quite sort of robust. I think in the vintage like 19, they've really excelled. I think that long, warm growing season, maybe some of those richer clay soils, has really allowed the wines to really show off. I think Armand has done a good job on this as well. Let's just try the wine again. As I say, it's a tiny vineyard. I mean, I'm not sure I've ever really seen it before from any other winemakers. This Clos. And as is a theme today, Armand has been using 50% of whole bunches on this particular wine. Delicate touch on oak, about 25-30% of new barrels, so not looking to bring too much oak to the party. Again, as we've seen already with the other previous two wines, it's obviously still very young and very much in its youthful phase, but already has this approachability. I think it's that, again, that delicious fruit. And again, with those sort of red berries, forest berry fruits, but yeah, definitely on that red fruit spectrum. Whereas Pommard can quite often be darker fruits, and I think it's slightly brighter red fruits for me. Beautiful structure, very fine, very delicate, and Pommard is always a village appellation, if I'm being general, where I find the wines can be more strong, more robust, but it seems to have a real delicate touch. I don't know if anyone else is enjoying that as well. So I don't know if shall we go on, as we've got Xavier here to talk about Pommard a little bit.
Before we do that, can I cut in with a quick question to your sommelier days? Food pairings for the Beaune, but then thinking also about Pommard. Back in the day, your impression of Pommard was this more rustic, structured wine.
Yeah.
Has Pommard changed, or have we just got particular growers who make Pommard of particular finesse? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
And food pairings with both, with your sommelier hat on.
Yeah, I think if I went back some 10, 15 years being on the floor and thinking of Pommard, I was always nervous that it would be sort of showing a bit too young, in the restaurant environment, where you would open it and you'd go, and it might have been a good, a big name and a big vineyard, but it might have been just a little bit almost like it was closed or not ready. And it might have been 5 or 6 or 7 years of age, but really tight. And as you say, that structural element. And so there was always a bit of nervousness. I don't know if I can name check the likes of, some of the very famous domains, like a De Moncy young Pommard back in the day. I'd have been like, is this going to be ready? Or is the customer going to look at me like I'm crazy? Or, but when they're good, they're obviously wonderful. And I think tonight that Pommard is showing really, really well. And I'm amazed. I don't think Pommard looked like that 20 years ago. And I think that is part of the story we're talking about already. We've touched about that climatic change. And I think I think that's here to stay in terms of, wines will look more pretty and be more approachable from those kind of vineyards where maybe previously you wouldn't even have thought about touching them for a long time. In terms of food pairing, I'm straight away thinking of winged animals. I'm thinking of ducks and goose and those kind of things, and or a really good poulet de Bresse, a real good chicken with a nice sauce, and then even some it's not the season now, but in the springtime if you've got some lamb chops and some herbs and things like that, and a nice reduction, that would go well. But I'm making myself hungry. I'm glad I had a quick bite before we started. But I think Pommard has changed, Sam, for me anyway. I'm sure what's just saying, greater ripeness in summer, allows the general attraction. So with more ripeness of fruit, then I think both Pascal and Joannes have already mentioned that they're being much more gentle in the cellar. So they're not doing pigeage and remontage in the same way. They're being more gentle in terms of how they interact with the wine in the vats to have these smoother, more gentle wines, I guess, but still with lots of flavor and lots of things going on. But I think I'm getting more and more excited by 2019, because obviously when you taste them from barrels, you're always a bit nervous to the next time you try them, but it's confirming a lot of what I thought earlier this year.
So a good time to bring Xavier in to tell us more about Pommard.
And he might be able to tell us more about the Clos des Poutures vineyard, but in terms of, because it's just below his Chaponnieres, so he might know a few things more than I might, because I've never actually been there. So.
Hello. I'm Xavier HORIOT. Everybody can heard my voice. I don't know. Yes, it's okay. I'm a new winemaker because I started only in 2014 in my family domain, coming from in the late 18th century. We were in Chassagne, and the family moved in the beginning of the 19th century. So the domain was like 12 hectares at the main point, but after with family problem, it's come now at only 4 hectares. So, but it's 4 hectares in property. So I have vineyard in Pommard, all around Pommard, Premier Crus and village level, and Grand Cru in Côte de Nuit. So in terms of vinification, I'm focused on I'm mainly this team, and I make a good pre-fermentation, cold pre-fermentation, and after it's really in tasting the wine during fermentation that I can adapt the way to do. Do you hear me?
Sorry, yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought a minute I was alone.
No, that's right. We were just letting you speak. Do you have the wine with you? Are you able to talk about this particular wine?
Yes, I've got some wine. So we start by the Perrier. So the Perrier, I'm very satisfied in 19 on this vintage, because obviously everybody knows it was a very dry vintage, very hot vintage. So everybody was focused on the pH, on the keeping the balance. Because we know all that we will have the ripeness, but we had to in order to keep the expression of the Pinot, which is a very delicate grape, we need to keep this liveness, this balance. So I'm happy with 19, because I think my wine will keep this balance. So the main thing is there. I think we keep the balance. The wine is not too hot, not too alcohol in it, and it keeps his liveness. After the fruit profile is sometime on the ripe fruit. It depends of the wines, but for this one, I think it's between fresh fruit and ripe fruit. Depends on the tastings. And I'm very happy because the tannins are soft, already soft. The wine will be able to be tasted really early, which is very important for a Pommard, because as you said, people have always some ideas around Pommard, like crisp tannin, but now thanks to the climate, thanks also with our method of vinification that everybody talked before, less extraction, and also the climate help us to have a good ripeness and not too much big skin. The skin is more thin. So the Pommard really benefits of this maturity given by those sunny years. So we are really able now to make even young, elegant wine. Before you need to add some years before open a bottle, but now we are happy to be able to keep the ability to be aged, but also take a real pleasure drinking Pommard young.
Xavier, I'm going to throw a few questions at you at the same time. I know you have vineyards in the Côte de Nuits as well, so you're in a position to comment on the Côte de Nuits versus the Côte de Beaune. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that in 19. Again, you mentioned the first vintage was 2014, but could you compare 19 with any other vintage? And then final question for you, Horia, is the Chaponnieres vineyard. If you could tell us a bit about that too, please.
Yeah. So the vintage comparison, yes, you're right. It's everybody is okay to compare the 2019 with something at the 15 in terms of vinification, and we were always in the sequence, very close sequence of the 15, not in vinification. I was talking about viticulture. The viticulture is really close from the agenda of the 2015. But in the tasting, I think 2019 will be less a solar wine than 2015. I think we had some freshness that maybe sometimes, also it's always depending from the terroir and from the different soil, but the 2018 is average more fresh than the 15, I think, from my opinion. Comparing now the Gevrey side, the coast and the Pommard coast, something is happening. Normally at the beginning, I was harvesting always like 10 days after Pommard, my Grand Cru. But now, I think since 16, 17, and it's confirmed up to now, I am going to harvest first the Chambertin, for example. It's 5 years that I'm going harvesting. I'm harvesting the Chambertin before the Pommard. So there is some climate change that push us to change some habits and to be really reactive with what is happening. Pommard has also the benefit of the comb of there is the big comb of that give us some freshness, and maybe in Côte de Nuits, in the Chambertins, with those solar year, there is some, and also the terroir, I don't know, but to keep the balance, I need to go to Chambertin earlier than Pommard. I cannot explain exactly why. Also, now if we switch to Chaponnieres, Chaponnieres is a really interesting AOC, because it's just below the Rugien, but it's a bit more deeper. It's deeper, so there are maybe a bigger amount of clay, but it's very close terroir, and it's always elegant. I'm very happy with this terroir, very elegant, and always a good structure, but it's easy to Chaponnieres, at the difference of Pommard in terms of vinification. It's easier to manage the extraction. The extraction comes slowly, at the difference of Pommard Perrier, where the extraction usually you have to be careful. So Chaponnieres is very pleasant for the process of vinification.
Well, Xavier, thank you very much. And I think that's proving the argument, or the debate about how Pommard has changed in the last 10, 15 years. And as you said, vineyard, vinage, and also the climatic conditions and the winemakers. Yeah, stunning, fantastic Premier Cru Pommard there for everyone to taste. I'm conscious of the time pressure. Anybody got any questions for Xavier, or shall we wait till the end, maybe Sam? Or
one, if we can cut back to Pascal, back to the vintage. Pascal, if we could bring you in again and ask just how good the 19s are. Jason enthuses more and more about it, and wants to put that question to you, please.
Which one Pascal, which vintage?
Just how good is it? Just how good is it, Pascal? Yeah, in a longer history possibly than Xavier's had and Joannes has. Put it in a context historically for us, please.
You mean to compare it with another vintage?
Please. And how good is it on its own?
Because I think it's difficult, because I think the type of vintage we see lately are so different than everything I've seen before, you know. And we used to like, for example, when we were getting to harvest, we used to know pretty much where we were going, but now we are getting to harvest, and we enter in a world full of surprises, and good surprises. But I love the 19. I think I mean, there's really a special touch from the vintage. Because I have the impression that I mean, it's delicate, but you can see that it's so long in the mouth, it's so long, it never ends. And this is something, you know, I really don't know what to compare. I mean, I cannot compare it with with anything in the past 35 years anyway. Maybe a bit 85. Maybe there's a bit of 85 in the 19. Yeah, maybe that's the closest I would get. I mean,
you're being offered You're being offered a hybrid between 9 and 10 as a possibility. Would you go along with that?
I think that you mean
some elements of the warmth of 9, possibly, and the structure of Tawse and 10.
But yeah, a mix of those two. But I mean, you take two vintages that are so different from one to the other. So yeah, so it's. But yeah, maybe I mean, maybe 85 would be what it reminds me the most, because same thing, we harvested that early. I mean, it was warm during vintage. The wines were very balanced, fully ripe. So yeah, maybe, but time will tell. Time will tell. But to say, yeah, it's for sure. I mean, it's somewhere. I mean, the result is somewhere in between 2009 and 2010. Yeah. I would agree to that.
Thank you, Garrett. I think you're back in action now, and you came back from Burgundy on the trip with Jason, and Rapet was one of the domains you were enthusing about.
Yeah,
really,
definitely. I mean,
surprise for you.
A domain I've always liked, always appreciated, and I was very excited when we were looking at Domaine direct and maybe to do some business with them, and it was confirmed in our tasting, seeing the whole range together. I mean, a very historic domain. Sam Vincent goes back, his family line goes back to the 17th century in that area, so very historic domain. And I just think the wines have just got great purity, elegance, real wines of terroir. And I think, as we've been referring to all through the last sort of hour, again, I think that climatic change has allowed the wines of Pernand as well to really go on to the next level. I think that 15, 20 years ago, sometimes they were struggling maybe for the ripeness, or depending where your vineyard was, or depending on the soil. But I think Pernand in white and red now is making some amazing wines. So we're tasting the Vergelesses from Vincent Rapet, the Premier Cru. So it's just actually it's a vineyard that sort of sits facing the Grand Cru of Corton, or Corton Charmaine on the so facing east. Clay soils. He's in the top part of the Vergelesses vineyard, which is I think that's the good part to be, because I think the further down you go, maybe it's more tricky. In terms of oak, we're looking at about 20% of oak's not the story, and again, gentle vinification. And they're also farming in a sort of organic way, not using any sort of chemicals or pesticides and things in the vines, which is really, I think, most of the growers we work with now are sort of following those kind of, looking after the vineyards in a natural way. Yeah, so yeah, Rapet for me, I think Pernand Vergelesses was probably one that certainly, I think it was a little bit affected by people not being able to say the name. I think Pernand Vergelesses doesn't roll off the tongue as easily as Pommard or Xavier maybe. But I think qualitatively in the last few years has been a big jump up, and I think Vincent Rapet really is at the forefront of that. I think for some of our friends in the Stannery family who maybe haven't tried the wines, maybe this is the first time, I think they can see that there's some treats to be had, and the white wines are very, very good too. I think as we've seen tonight, again, there's this brightness of fruit, there's this purity, there's this, real sort of.
And are we short-term drinking, medium-term? Where are we in Pernod for people?
For me, I think it's more medium-term. I don't think it's for the very long term. I think if I think it's more of a medium-term wine, especially both white and red. I think some of the white wines are very mineral. If you get into the Carados and the Ile Vergelesses in white, there's some really mineral wines there. It's the story of the evening in terms of balance, in terms of purity, in terms of elegance. There's real balance of fruit. Alcohol, you don't feel it at all. It's just really, yeah. I think if we were trying those Pernod Vergelesses 15, 20 years ago at that stage, it would feel very awkward. Or yeah, Vincent Rapet does have 3 hectares of Corton Charlemagne. You're going to start fights, Jason. Are they coming in magnums as well? So I'm going to make use of the chat box next time Jason's on. I'll be. Yeah, but I think at the Flint Stannery family are very excited to be working with. I think the wines are great, and I think the Corton story leads me on to the next wine. So we're lucky to try tonight the Corton Grand Cru, the Lolieres. Which sits in the La Doise. So we're coming around the hill of Corton, going back sort of towards the Côte de Nuit on the La Doise side. Almost one of the last terroir of Corton. And it's quite a new story for us in that I think that Charlemagne, who we've known from his Gevrey Chambertin work, he only started working with these vineyards back in 2018 for the first vintage. So nice to see that. I mean, Charles, a bundle of energy and passion and precision, who's anytime I go to visit him in his cellar, I mean, he's always got a new thing, or he's trying something different, or he's bought a new something for the tractor, or he's always to make it work so he can work at 4 o'clock in the morning. New things going on. But yeah, it's old vines, 60-year-old vines. He's got about 1/3 of a hectare, so not bad for one crew. And yeah, let's try. But I think it's the first wine where we're getting some more darker fruits, a bit more that sort of darker cherry and a bit more spice as well. And I think, I don't know exactly because I didn't visit Charles this time around, but he would use a bit more new oak maybe than some of the wines we tried earlier. So I'm guessing just by even smelling it, maybe around 40% maybe of new barrels or a bit more.
Gary, Corton historically, when back in the sommelier days again, let's go back and compare. I mean, we've touched on this a bit, the new Burgundy, these new vintages.
Yeah, I mean,
what's changed?
Certainly, when I was first starting off as a sommelier back in the late 90s, you probably didn't have Corton Rouge on your list. You had Charlemagne, but you probably didn't have Corton Rouge. It wasn't sought after. But I think, as we've talked about all evening, I think that there's been a seismic shift in the Côte since the last 10, 15 years with winemaking, with the climate. Generations coming through and learning and doing different things. And you can see there, that, again, a wine of precision and poise. I think this is I think it's the first wine tonight where I'm probably thinking maybe it's not as forward, maybe it needs a bit more time. There's a sort of a darker sort of element to it, a spicier sort of style, and a richness, and a warm vintage, I guess, in a grown cru site, then you might expect that. But I think that the thing for me is, and I suppose it's just, I think 2019, the quality for me is there to see, and I'm looking at one snapshot, but I haven't tasted a bad 19 yet, which is good news, I guess.
Jared, on that note, I may stop you. That's a good note to finish on. We've pretty much hit our hour's time. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Xavier. Thank you, Pascal. And thank you, Joannes. Really, really interesting. It has confirmed, many good things. Mention on how Primeur is working this year. It is a hugely unusual year. We are going to have a consolidated offer in January, but we are also going to offer these wines as we go along. So after this, I will send out an email to everyone on this Zoom. If they're interested in buying them, please do just email me back. But there will be a consolidated one, but some will sell out. So do put your hand up sooner rather than later if you'd like to. A series of these tastings we're running. The next two are all full. I hope people are able to join us for Chassagne and Poligny over the next week. The next one that is available is on the 8th of December, which is Nuits Saint-Georges and Beaune Romanée. I think we have a mighty 3 spaces available if anyone would like to join us that and hasn't signed up already. But thank you to everyone, and I hope you did enjoy this evening's tasting.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Garrett.
Thanks, Xavier. Thanks, Pascal.
Thank you, Xavier, Pascal, Joannes. Wonderful evening.